Granite Equity was really founded on the mission and the purpose of helping to keep local companies locally owned. And Granite Equity was formed for that purpose. So we own 10 operating companies in Minnesota today that employ 1,600 people across the state, but also with operations around the world with headquarters here in Minnesota. So that's what we look for, is great companies in Minnesota where succession planning is at work. Our ownership model is different. We are a buy and hold investment company. We want to own for 100 years or more. And so our rule is buy and hold. There will be exceptions in a struggling industry or a company that has really lost its market share. But by and large, we want to own for 100 years and just continue to grow those companies over time. No doubt we'll need to innovate in order to continue to grow and generate the profit and the value and the returns that we need to generate for ourselves and for our group of investors. But we are different in that sense of being what's sometimes called an evergreen fund or a buy and hold firm. With a 100-year lens, you end up thinking about industries and companies differently than if you have a 3 or a 5 or a 7-year lens. There might be any number of companies we could make money on from an investment perspective in 3 or 5 or 7 years, but ultimately we're looking for industries that have stable dynamics and companies that have very strong positions in those industries, such that our primary role is to continue to recruit great leaders and talent to those companies to sustain them. The typical public company lives 10 years before it's merged or acquired or it changes. And the typical private equity investment has a 5-year holding period. So it's daunting to think about trying to sustain for 100 years, and it requires humility and determination and I think the best leadership. I think another important experience in my career is the experience of failure. And Granite Equity, we've batted about 80% in our investing, but not 100%. And when I got started, I had hoped and believed and thought we would bat 100% in making our investment decisions in industries that would sustain and in companies that have a strong position. But ultimately, we were humbled a few times in realizing that the best of us, the best of our intentions, and the best of people cannot change the fundamental forces of an industry. And we cannot either take a company that's in a weak position in an industry and overnight will it into a strong and sustainable position. And so we had 2 failed investments early in our history. And I think that's the time that is the best for learning about what we can and can't do as leaders, what we can and can't change. And it's also the time when you know who your partners are, who's committed to the mission and the purpose long term. And we were fortunate in Granite Equity that we are all committed long term. For young entrepreneurs, I think it's important to try to discover and be as clear as you can be about your passion and your purpose. And St. John's and St. Ben's are great places to help discover and develop your passion and purpose. And I think when you can be as clear about your lifelong passion and purpose as you can be, and then find an unmet need in a marketplace, or as importantly, an unmet need in a community. And when you bring together the overlap of your passion and purpose with one of those unmet needs in business or in community organizations, then I think you'll thrive. And you'll be successful by definition because you're pursuing your passion and your purpose and fulfilling needs in the world. And I think that's the definition of success.